Exactly 29 minutes after 6. This is the Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM. And the song in the background is Dana Hamilton Victory Praise. A song I like so much. And the last part of the song, the one I just sang, Nyameso. That is my favorite part. All right, thank you very much for choosing us this morning. We get into a lot of stuff this morning, but the song says that there is victory for they that wait upon the Lord. Yes, victory for you. I know maybe sometimes it feels like things have delayed. Maybe things are not happening the way you want it to be. You are following the timelines of men. Or there are times that maybe you've received a word or a prophetic word that says that by so and so date you are going to do this, and it looks like that thing is not happening. This morning I just want to encourage you. The song says that there is victory for they that wait upon the Lord. Continue to wait upon the Lord. Sometimes what we call delay is actually God working on us and working through us. So this morning I want to assure you that indeed God has a plan for you. As the Bible says in the book of Jeremiah 29:11. It says that, for I know the plans that I think towards you, plans of good and not evil, plans to prosper you. And then it continues. But the assurance is simple, that there is a plan for you. And I pray for you this morning that you will follow exactly the plan of God. And then He will continue to order your steps and continue to lead you. So please don't think that you're delayed. Keep your head up, continue to pray, continue to trust and believe in the Lord. And eventually one day He will come through for you. He's working behind the scenes for your sake. All right, let me run you through what we have for you this morning. Of course, we're starting with a news review segment. And then we bring you the business news. And then right after that, I come your way with a business brief segment. And that will be followed by Transport Today with Solomon Tetenati. And then up next is a market trend segment. And today we'll be talking about the producer price inflation. It has dropped significantly, and we'll look at that on our on our market trend segment. And of course, we wrap everything up with our roundtable discussion. We have a lot of things to talk about today. But it's a Thursday, and it's a throwback Thursday, and you know how we do it here on the Business Breakfast on Zed, bringing you back to back old tunes. All right, let's get into our news review segment this morning. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you very much for staying with us here on the Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM. We get into our news review segment, and we're starting. Just going to give a few of the headlines making waves, and then we try to break some of them down. Starting with a New Finder newspaper. This one says Ghana begins export of legally certified timber to EU market. Stories on page 9 of the New Finder newspaper. And also this one says producer price inflation drops 3.8 in July. Story is on page 8. And majority of banks on track to meet capital requirements after debt crisis. Story is on page 12 of the paper. And a few of the stories in there. This one says Ghana's economic gains not creating enough decent jobs, coming from World Bank. And also Ghana risks stagnation without tax culture, resource management reforms, coming from an economist. And this one says the government to introduce performance targets for diplomats. I think that's a good one. We'll talk about that briefly. And this one says sanitation levy must be increased to tackle filth and create jobs. OT Bless and NHIA orders Akimodan Hospital to refund 312,413 Ghana cedis over fraudulent claims. And Glorious Women on the go donate sanitary kits and learning materials to O'Reilly Senior High School. And PAC Public Accounts Committee member demands prosecution of public funds embezzlers. And Ghana launches green cooling project to fight pollution and reduce electricity bills. And no director asked to stay home on salary. Cocoa Board says that. And Ghana to scrap minimum capital requirement for foreign investors. And CD world's best performing currency. Mahama woos Japanese investors. And $10 billion big push target Japanese partnerships for growth. And Ghana records 15,000 new HIV infections in 2024. Domestic debt payments could boost capital. So those are a few of the stories. Okay, let me mention this one. This one says that Ghana pays highest cocoa price in West Africa, according to Cocoa Board. Let's look at some other stories on other portals. On myjoyonline.com, the top story says that Mahama co-chairs TICAD 9th session and calls for reforms to attract investments. And also Mahama meets Japanese Prime Minister, discusses 3 key issues to deepen cooperation. And Ghana's Godwin Asediba wins the 2025 BBC Komladomo Award. And also Ghanaian cocoa farmers received highest farm gate prices in West Africa, coming from Cocoa Board. And over 100 Japanese firms attend GIPC Presidential Investment Forum. And assaulting health workers cannot replace justice, Professor Bayo warns. And also Shatawale detained by Yoko amidst Lamborghini saga. And 70 years on Springboard still graduates a nation of doers. And Zuma urges Africa to adopt single currency for economic independence. Let's look at some other stories on some other portals. On City Newsroom, top story says that Africa is the next frontier for investment, coming from President Mahama. And BOG assures importers of steady supply of forex. And Public Accounts Committee orders arrest of absconded Energy Ministry geologist over bond breach. And Ghana risks 18th IMF bailout without structural reforms, IEA warns. And Tanko, this one says NDC is battle ready for Akwatia by election, and we are confident in EC's credibility ahead of Akwatia by election, coming from the NPP. And Akwatia by election, still on that, EC pledges transparent and peaceful polls. And Shatawale detained. Okay, same story here. And this one says corporal punishment should be reintroduced, and Chinia Paga MP says that. And UG warns against encroachment of on-Boteman lands. And Pokwasi and Sawan roads work to be completed on schedule, coming from the road ministry. All right, those are a few of the stories. On international front, on Reuters, this one says Israel says it has taken first steps of military cooperation in Gaza City. On Bloomberg Africa, JD Vance says Russia wants territory that's under Ukraine's control. And on CNN, it says that Israel says it has begun first stages of offensive on Gaza City. Well, those are a few of the stories this morning. We'll try and break some of them down. I have joining me over the phone lines Abel and Solowin Amodiok. He's a governance and policy strategist, and he helps me break down the headlines this morning. Abel, how are you doing, and how is Chado?
Oh, me? I'm doing very well. And this morning, everything seems to be fine in Chado here, you know.
What is the weather condition there?
You know, over the past few a month, we've had this
the Ghana winter,
the Ghana winter, and I think for the first time was in the morning, I'm seeing the sun. But the coldness is still there.
It's still there.
And it's still, seem very calm. And it's a very nice weather. It's a very nice weather.
The one that makes you sleep so much,
The one that makes you do what?
Makes you sleep. You don't want to get out of your bed.
No. We can't be sleeping. Then I can imagine our colleagues outside. How they manage.
I hear people say that they want to leave the country. They want to travel outside the country. And when the weather is a little cold here, they begin to complain. I'm like, but you are the same person who wants to leave the country. So if you go to all right, but anyway, you're welcome to the Business Breakfast on Zed.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to all our cherished listeners who have been in, those in cars on their way to work, those in their offices, and those now preparing to be here. A very good morning to everyone, and it's great to be joining you this morning.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for joining me. So let's try and see if we can touch on a few of the stories as fast or as quick as we can. Let's look at this one. Let me see. All right. Let's talk about this one. So sanitation levy is in the conversations. And Oti Bless, the chairman of the Parliament's Sanitation Committee and member of Parliament for Nkwanta North Constituency, John Oti Bless, he has proposed that government increases the sanitation levy from 20 pesos to 50 pesos in the 2026 budget to intensify the fight against poor sanitation and create employment opportunities for the youth. Speaking to the media yesterday, Mr. Bless argued that the increment would not only provide additional funding to address Ghana's sanitation challenges, but also support youth-focused initiatives. And I quote, he says, the government, through the Ministry of Finance, should consider increasing the levy in the 2026 budget. And unquote, he explained that revenue from the levy should be restructured so that portions are allocated to key agencies such as the National Youth Employment Agency and also the National Youth Authority, NYA. According to him, this would enable agencies to absorb more young people into productive ventures while supporting training under the National Apprenticeship Program. I'm not quite seeing the connection, but anyway, Abel, what are your thoughts on that?
I think transparency in accountability in governance is such a very important thing that a lot of governments take for granted. And there's a popular saying that, like, what you've been given, when you are given something, you are supposed to account for it. The talent that you've been given, you've not accounted for it, and now you're asking for more. Do you understand? I'm expecting that maybe, because we've already had, this conversation is not a new one. I think the suggestion was muted earlier by another member of the ruling government who had suggested an increment in the sanitation levy. And I was expecting that for the purposes of governance, of good governance, maybe the current levy, how much it accrues every year, and how the distribution have gone so far. What are they going to? How much goes into administrative expenses? How much goes into taking care of, hardcore sanitation issues? Then you can then make the point that, look, this is what we have, and over the years, this is what we've been able to achieve in the area of sanitation, and that is why we are asking for more. But we've not seen much done. If you look at the past 3 to 4 years, there's not been any improvement in our sanitation situation. What is the improvement in our sanitation situation that we are asking for more? Do you get it?
Yeah.
Where is the improvement? Because if we can see improvement, in the major cities along, some of the areas you visit is not anything to write home.
But the argument is that is not enough. So that's why you are not seeing
it. That's why you are not seeing
the
one that is not enough. What is the stewardship of the one that you are saying is not enough? You understand me? How much goes into the sanitation companies? How much is government owing the sanitation companies? How much goes into administrative expenses? We must know. Look, we know how much e-levy was. You get it? We know why government scrapped e-levy. Is that not so? We know the proceeds that quarterly we get from e-levy. Your friend is saying semi-annually, and then in the whole year, how much we get from e-levy, and where those funds were supposed to be going. And government made a huge argument in scrapping the e-levy. Do you understand? So why are we asking for an increment in the sanitation levy from, I think, is it at 40 pesos, now asking for 90 pesos or so? We want 50 pesos to be added. What is backing it? What evidence is backing it? I want to see the evidence. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That maybe this is how much we are generating in our system. Do you get it? This is how much we need to manage them. Is government the one managing the waste system? You see, because waste management, if we do it, if it becomes a matter of government pumping money into it alone, it will not be resolved. You have to find other renewable ways of managing waste. And when that comes in, it means that you'll be dealing a lot with the private sector. So what government does is to provide a conducive environment for the private sector to come in, assure the private sector of certain basic things that you can provide for them. And then when they come into the system, they collect the waste and they process some of them. Look at some of the composite plants. Some of the composite plants are turning waste into fertilizers and among other things, which are being packaged and resold on the market. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So when it happens like that, then the waste plant is making profits. Do you get it? Because it needs to operate for some time before it breaks even. So we are saying that how are those partners? So you can't tell me that it is all about increasing levies and things. No. That is the point I'm making. I'm saying that the committee must come again. Because tell us how the current one that the government is managing, how is it being managed? Do you get it? How is it being managed? What are the proceeds? Where is it going into? Which areas is it going to? And because that's a challenge with some of the tax handles we have in this country. By the time you look at the tax handle, almost half of it is going into administrative expenses. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And that is usually not the purpose of. And look at the point he's making, that it will lead to more employment by, like you said, what is the connection? More employment by YEA. Okay, YEA, what will YEA be doing? Do more models of having people being paid 1,000 cedis, 1,500 cedis. Are those sustainable jobs? Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Because look at the job models YEA is engaged in. The job models YEA is engaged in are not sustainable models. I mean, they are not jobs that can be sustained in the long period. People jump onto them because they have to survive. Do you understand? So we must be thinking critically about providing sustainable, well-paying jobs that can transform the lives of people.
Right.
In this economy, if you are paying somebody 1,500 cedis as a community fire assistant or a community fire police service or whatever, a police assistant or whatever, it is just hand to mouth survival. Do you understand? They cannot add anything to their lives. So it's just like you. In fact, how to even make ends meet with that amount, I wonder. Do you get it? So if that is the thinking, then we must come again. Why he doesn't provide sustainable jobs? So we must come again. What's the name? The National Youth Authority, the National Apprenticeship Program, is providing skills. How much of the sanitation levy is going into that one? I thought the National Apprenticeship is a government flagship program. Do you understand me? A Jumawa is a government flagship program. Where government has flagship programs, it means that the funding of those programs don't only come from a small levy like the sanitation levy. Do you get it? And again, in fact, government has now decentralized sanitation to the local, the local government, to district assemblies, right?
Yeah.
So district assemblies, how is the sanitation committee working with district assemblies? Do you understand? To governize them, they have bylaws. Do you get it? So it means you now have jurisdiction over sanitation in your district. What proper measures can you put in place
right,
so that you can raise more internal revenue, or within your district raise more revenue, and then you can manage your waste very properly? And I'm sure communities and house owners and individuals within the various districts, if they see that their districts are really managing waste well, and the district is asking them to contribute meaningfully to do that, they will do. Already, those are being taxed for the individual waste that they generate. You get it?
Yeah.
They individually, they will generate in your house with the containers. You put it in the container, the baller people, they come and then they collect it. You pay for it. Don't you pay for it?
Of course you do.
You get it? So we cannot, I don't think taxing our way out of some of our problems is the way. You see, we want to tax every problem. We want to tax every problem. We want to tax.
But that is how we solve the problems, isn't it?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying the opposite of it. That it is not every problem that we can tax our way out of it. Yes, some of our problems are systematic. Internally, systematic. It is within our DNA.
Structural problems.
Yes, it's a structural problem within the district, within the larger communities. If you don't resolve that, you cannot use this tax to write it off. And you will see that they can come with beautiful arguments. You will agree with them. Let me tell you, we can even increase the sanitation levy to 2 Ghana cedis. And the problem we have with sanitation in the country will still persist. It will still persist because you've not resolved the localized problems. Let me call them that way. The localized problems. They are localized problems, challenges. You get it?
Yeah, I get it.
You don't want to resolve that. You just want to increase. I don't think that some of these committees, they must be making this argument for the agencies. It is not. You see, when the agencies come to you and they come and complain, it is your responsibility to probe the issues beyond what they come and tell you. Because you are in parliament. When all the agencies appear before you, they will tell you sweet things. And when they finish, they do, you get it, they'll do some things, and then now you get up and you hold the microphone. You say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, Ghanaians, we have to do. No. Go and investigate the issue. You have communities. Investigate the issues beyond just what you've been told. And let's see how we can properly, resolve some of these challenges without necessarily just taxing and taxing and taxing.
Right. So what we are calling for is accountability. Show us how much has been collected, what it has been used for, and what impact it has made. And then we can have a real conversation about whether more money is needed or not. But I want to throw the question to my audience this morning. Please feel free to send your comments. Would you support paying a little more levy if it truly meant a cleaner Ghana and new jobs for young people? Would you support paying a little more levy if it meant a cleaner Ghana and new jobs for young people? So you can send me a WhatsApp on 0544321019, 0544321019, and then I'll read your comments for you. Or do you think that government must first prove that it can deliver results with the money it already has? Just tell us your thoughts this morning. Share your thoughts with us this morning. Ebo, you can continue. Or let's look at some other stories. I don't know, but there's a story that is quite related to taxation, and simply because you were talking about taxing and all of that. So let me just look at that story. It says that Ghana risks stagnation without tax culture and resource management. Yesterday, I was talking to development economist Dr. George Bomfe from the University of Ghana, and he raised concerns about the weak tax culture and the poor resource management that are I mean, that we continue to face here in this country. And he warned that the country risks some economic stagnation if urgent reforms are not undertaken. And he identified two major problems that are confronting the nation's development. And he says low tax revenue generation and the misuse of public resources. According to him, a significant number of Ghanaians in the workforce do not pay taxes, yet successive governments and opposition parties have also failed to tackle the issue head on. Instead, he said opposition parties often exploit the public's natural aversion to taxation by campaigning against tax policies only to reverse their positions once they are in power. And he recalled historical examples. I mean, you can talk about the Kumi Preko and all of that, the VAT under Rollins, those conversations. And he also said that corruption is one of the major things that is actually causing us a lot in this country. What are your thoughts on that, Abel?
Yeah. When we talk about the low tax revenue, I don't believe it's just about, yes, of course, there have been some comparative analysis within the West African sub-region. If you compare Ghana to our neighbors and all that, how much we are raking in from tax and all that, and some very genuinely true, but you have other tax handles that have not been implemented well. So the challenge we have is that now almost every form of tax that the government wants to introduce, not this government alone, but successive governments, they will usually prefer the one that is very universal, that they can rake in from everybody at source. That is why you had levies like the e-levy. You get it? Because like it targets everybody, it becomes easier to collect. But you see, over the years, I've heard tax experts argue that the property tax, for example, if properly administered, could generate huge revenues for district assemblies. At a point it was centralized. I think this administration have attempted to localize it and give it back to the district assemblies to be in charge. Why have it not worked? Why has the implementation been so difficult? Take Greater Accra, for example. Look at the sprang of properties that have come up in the last decade. Do you understand me? What have been the local assemblies' response to these properties, and how much have they raked in? If you check property taxes as a component of the assemblies, each assembly is very low. It's nothing to write home about. That is why I was talking about accountability. Not just only accountable, but effective tax system. So that the ones that are already in the system, you are able to put in measures to collect them. One of taxes that also is the informal sector, because of the way the informal sector is become very difficult to bring them into the tax state. And I was saying that is one of the reasons why I have been championing the idea of rural development. How can government empower the districts and allow them to operate on their own? Do you get it? And you must make it incentivized, because if the districts are allowed to work properly on their own, what it means, you have to think outside. Look, when you go to every district assembly, what happens is that they are all waiting for the money that will hit their accounts from the district assembly's common fund. And almost certainly, I don't know, but maybe I can say half. I don't have the data. But almost half of the assemblies depend on the district assembly's common fund to operate. That cannot be. Meanwhile, within the district, they have bylaws. See, enforcing even fines, unlawful car parking spaces, even people, I know that some of those funds, like, for example, the ones that the police engaged in, goes to the Central Police Administration, and then probably they also manage it. But all that also comes into the development of the system. Are you enforcing small, small, small issues within the assembly that can be enforced by bylaws? where fines can be imposed, where these fines comes to the assemblies and help the assemblies run. And that is the bit where the corruption comes in. Because some of these fines are imposed and some individuals go behind the scenes and collect something and then they get out of the system. So it's a huge issue. I think it just has to do with imposing taxes. That is why the tax revenue generation is very low. I also think it's a matter of how we are applying the existing tax handles. What strategic measures are we putting in place to ensure that the collection is efficient and help the government? But the other reasons, I agree by and large with the analysts. These issues, are very important, and we have to find a way. I think the current government, it has a responsibility, and that responsibility is that a lot of people have placed trust in the current administration. They cannot fail the Ghanaians by doing things the old way. They must think and allow innovation to set in. Look, at other countries that we started with, they've advanced. How did they advance? They didn't advance by just talking. We must find a way to carry citizens along. We must find a way to engage citizens on policies that can transform our country. And we must find a way to let citizens see some of these things. Look, I've been listening to the current Prime Minister for Singapore for a while, and his ability to communicate that, look, this is what we want to do. If we do this way, in the next 5 years, these are the results that we should get. If you come along with us, that this is the way we say we want to solve this issue. If you come along with us on that journey for the next 5 years, we should see this standard. You see, and some of these things, and they are verifiable in the history of the country, where such promises have been upheld. So people have confidence when the government says we'll do this, and the people give the government the benefit of the doubt to proceed on that tangent. Here in our country, even when we say that a road will be completed in the next 2 or 3 years, my brother, it can take 6, 7, 8 years, and that road will still be. Look at Swami Interchange, for example. It's been there for a decade.
Yeah.
An interchange that was supposed to take maybe 2 or 3 years. And that is the problem. When it happens like that, it doesn't engender confidence in our citizens. There's no trust for political leadership and political communication. And that is why when you start advocating for tax increment and some of these things that can drive development, people become very reluctant.
Yeah.
So the responsibility lies on the shoulders of government. Government have to find a way to do that. You must instill confidence. You must instill trust within your citizens. However you do it, we don't care. But you have to find a way to do that.
Do it anyway.
And once we start getting those simple things right, you see, when government come and say we even want to increase VAT by 2% or 3%, the citizens will have no problem because they see the effects in their daily life. But when we advocate for certain things, and that's a few years, there's nothing. We don't feel anything in our lives. Do you think that we will agree? Every day, now it has become a national anthem. What is the reason why we are not developed? Corruption. Why is that not doing this? Corruption. Why is government not doing this? Corruption. Right? So how can we stop corruption? It is a responsibility of government to do that.
Right.
And their trust in citizens. However it has to do, it has to find a way to do that.
All right, Abel, thank you very much for your time. Really, really grateful that you made time this morning to join me.
Thank you very much.
Please do enjoy the rest of your day. All right, so up there, that was Abel Ansoliwin Amodio. He is a governance and policy strategist, and he joined me this morning for the news review segment. Up next is business news. Right now, time for business news right here on a business breakfast on Zed. Coming up shortly, the Ghana Cocoa Board Ghana is offering highest farm gate prices for cocoa in West Africa, coming from the Ghana Cocoa Board. And also, this one says that the Bank of Ghana assures importers of steady supply of forex. And also, this one says that Ghana risks 18th IMF bailout without structural reforms, coming from the IEA. Now, let's settle for the details. Now, the Ghana Cocoa Board has clarified that cocoa farmers in Ghana currently receive the highest farm gate price in West Africa, dismissing claims that their Ivorian counterparts earn more. In a press release on Wednesday, August 20, Cocoa Board said official figures confirm that Ghanaian farmers are significantly better off. The producer price in Ghana stands at 3,222 Ghana cedis per 64 kilogram bag, about 51,660 Ghana cedis per ton, or 5,040 US dollars per metric ton. In Cote d'Ivoire, the same bag goes for 2,553 Ghana cedis, or 3,886 US dollars per ton. According to the August 2025 Commodity Analysis Team report, this translates to Ghanaian farmers earning 675 cedis per more per bag, or 10,806 Ghana cedis more per ton than Ivorian farmers. Cocoa Board emphasized that these figures are factual and that narratives suggesting parity or disadvantage are misleading. The pricing policy not only guarantees fair returns for farmers but also protects them from currency fluctuations and discourages cocoa smuggling across the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire border. The board also highlighted that Ghana's cocoa remains a global benchmark for quality, and with the highest farm gate price in the region, farmers are assured better livelihood. Cocoa Board says its commitment to sustainable and fair pricing continues to strengthen Ghana's leadership in the global cocoa industry. In other news, the Bank of Ghana is assuring importers and exporters of a steady supply of foreign exchange as it works to stabilize the financial sector and ease pressure on businesses. Sources at the central bank told the media that commercial banks have been directed to suspend over-the-counter forex withdrawals. The move is aimed at reducing pressure on the system and curbing shortages that have driven many traders to black markets at crippling rates. The directive follows a high-level meeting between the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, and the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. At the meeting, the association raised concerns about deduction on forex transactions and described the $10,000 withdrawal cap as a major obstacle for genuine importers. In response, the Bank of Ghana disclosed that a special committee is reviewing the Financial Foreign Exchange Act and related policies to address bottlenecks in the forex market. The Importers and Exporters Association, while commending the central bank for stabilizing the cedi and improving the macroeconomic outlook, also appealed for further interventions to ease the burden on businesses. The central bank says its priority is to keep the forex market stable and ensure importers and exporters get the foreign exchange they need to stay in business. Now to our last story. The Institute of Economic Affairs has issued a strong warning that Ghana risks going back to the International Monetary Fund for an 18 bailout if government fails to fix deep-rooted structural weaknesses in the economy. Now, board chairman of the IEA, Dr. Charles Mensah, sounded the alarm during a roundtable discussion on Ghana's mining regime. He said despite being one of the world's top gold producers, Ghana has repeatedly returned to the IMF 17 times so far because the country has failed to take ownership of its natural resources and build resilience. Now, Ghana's first IMF program dates back to 1966 after the overthrow of President Kwame Nkrumah. Since then, successive governments have turned to the fund for support, often in times of fiscal stress. Currently, the country is under a $3 billion IMF bailout program, which began in 2023 and is expected to end in early 2026. While implementation is on track, economic analysts warn the real challenge will come after the program ends, when Ghana must maintain fiscal discipline and avoid falling back into the familiar cycle of debts and bailouts. The IEA is urging bold reforms in revenue mobilization and natural resource management to keep Ghana from repeating history. Now, that will be all for business news. There's more news on www.zmultimedia.com. You can visit our social media platforms also at ZFMGH on Facebook and also Z Multimedia on Twitter, on TikTok and YouTube. So you can follow us for more news on these platforms. My name is Nietzsche Hammond. The Business Breakfast on Zed continues right here on Z101.9 FM. So at this point, we'll take a quick music break, and when we return, the show continues. Please stay tuned.
one flight available for the day at 9:30 a.m. and it takes 1 hour 40 minutes to get to your destination. Accra to Tamale, Passion Air Accra to Tamale, morning schedule is 6 a.m. and then afternoon schedules are 12:20 p.m. and 4:20 p.m. 12:20 p.m. and 4:20 p.m. and it takes 1 hour 20 minutes to get to your destination. So these are the local flight schedules for Passion Air. Africa World Airlines Accra to Kumasi, morning schedules are 6:20 a.m., 8:40 a.m. and 9:40 a.m. 6:20 a.m., 8:40 a.m. and 9:40 a.m. Afternoon schedules are 2:10 p.m. and 3:10 p.m. and then evening schedule is 7 p.m. And so we have 3 flights available in the morning, 2 flights available in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening. And it takes 40 minutes to get to your destination. And that's Africa World Airlines Accra to Kumasi. Now, Accra to Takra, the Africa World Airlines morning schedule is 7:20 a.m. and then afternoon schedules 12 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. and so we have 1 flight available in the morning and then 2 flights in the afternoon. There's no flight available in the evening, and it takes 40 minutes to get to your destination. Accra to Tamale, Africa World Airlines morning schedules are 6:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. 6:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. and then afternoon schedules are 12:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. So these are the local flight schedules for today. Let's look at the traffic situation in town, and today we are looking at Teshi Road, how the traffic situation looks like on that stretch. And so currently Teshi Goyo Gas fuel station, or where the Goyo Gas fuel station is located on the Teshi Road, there's traffic around that area getting close to Cactus Street. There's traffic around that area, so you should take note of that. And that's where the Nungwa Beach Drive is located. There's traffic on that stretch, so you should take note of that. On the same Teshi Road, you are to experience traffic. If you are heading towards La on the Teshi La Road, you are going to experience traffic around where the Laboma Beach Resort is located, heading towards where the Polo Beach Club is. Polo Beach Club is located on the La Road. There's traffic around that area, so you should take note of that. Right from the Laboma Beach Hotel, there's massive traffic on the Teshi Road, so you should take note of that if you are using that stretch. So I think that's the situation over there. On the same La Road, where the Sandbox Beach Club is located, there's also traffic building up slowly around that area where the Melcom Accra Labadi branch is located. The traffic is building up slowly around that area, so you should take note of that. On the 28th February Road, there's also traffic building up slowly around where the Kingdom Books and Stationery is located. There's traffic building up slowly around that area on the 28th February Road, so you should also take note of that. So that's the traffic situation over there as we speak. Now let's look at Independence Avenue. There's traffic on that stretch as we speak, right from Accra Ghana Temple to Ridge Roundabout. There's massive traffic. If you're from Sankara heading towards Accra, there's massive traffic around that area, right from the Zenith Bank head office to Ridge Roundabout is very busy at the moment. Castle Road is also busy at the moment, where the GT Bank head office is located on the Castle Road. There is very busy at the moment. If you are using the Castle Road, you are going to experience traffic around that area, so you should take note of that. So that's the traffic situation around that area. Liberia Road is also busy at the moment, especially where the Accra Technical University Lodge is located. It's very, very busy at the moment on the Liberia road. So if you are using that route, you should expect traffic. Or if you are yet to use that route, you should expect traffic on that stretch. And so that's the traffic situation over there. Now, let's look at some stories trending in the aviation sector. Australia and China are further strengthening their travel ties as China Southern Airlines announces the expansion of its services between Guangzhou and Brisbane, doubling the daily flight frequency. So this strategic move aims to cater to the growing demand for travel during the peak Southern Hemisphere summer period, ensuring more capacity and enhanced connectivity between the two countries. With these added flights, China Southern Airlines is setting new benchmarks in service levels, providing travelers with increased options and reinforcing the airline's commitment to facilitating tourism, trade, and cultural exchange between Australia and China. And also, Saudi Arabia Airline News has confirmed that VistaJet has been granted approval by the General Authority of Civil Aviation to operate as the first international Saudi Arabia airline private jet operator allowed to conduct domestic flights within the kingdom. So this new authorization follows the recent removal of cabotage restrictions on charter operations, which officially took effect on May 1, 2025. So this move is seen as a key part of Saudi Arabia's effort to position itself as a prominent player in the global aviation landscape. So these are the stories actually trending this morning in the aviation sector. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much. Solomon Tetenate is my colleague here, and he brings us Transport Today. We'll get into a market trend segment very soon. Emmanuel Watson will be joining me, and today we're talking about the producer price inflation that has been released by the Ghana Statistical Service, and we're going to talk about that. What exactly does it mean? What are the numbers looking like very soon? But we'll take a quick music break. When we return, Emmanuel Watson will join me. Please enjoy Lala to the King.
This is Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM.
Jesus to the world, yeah. I was lost, low, needed a place to go. In the darkness, searching for light. You found me, Jesus, I made it right. With a melody in my heart, a song of joy that will never depart. Dancing your grace right from the start. You put that melody in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. Every step you guide my way. In your love, I'm here to stay. Through the storm and through the rain, you comfort me, you ease my pain. You put that melody in my heart, a song of joy that will never depart. Dancing your grace right from the start. You put that melody in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. I was lost, low, needed a place to go. In the darkness, searching for light. You found me, Jesus, I made it right. With a melody in my heart, A song of joy that will never depart. Dancing your grace right from the start. You put that melody in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. Every step you guide my way. In your love, I'm here to stay. Through the storm and through the rain, you comfort me, you ease my pain. You put that melody in my heart, a song of joy that will never depart. Dancing your grace right from the start. You put that melody in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. La 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 to the King of Kings. Sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We shout hallelujah, hallelujah. Again I do hallelujah, hallelujah. We sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We shout hallelujah, hallelujah. Again I do hallelujah, hallelujah. We sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We shout hallelujah, hallelujah. Again I do hallelujah.
This is Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM.
Well, if it had not been for the Lord, tell me where would I be? Hey, KGJ Bonkula, mini mafe. Tell me where would I be? Yeah, I can't see my yarrow. Shamelake, you are Oda. Minimum, Jaboda. I can't be gay, I can't be pitiful. I can't see my yarrow. Shamelake, you are Oda. Minimum, Jaboda. Makasabo. Yeah, no friend, no me. Yeah, believe me.
This is Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9.
All right, welcome back to the Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM. Exactly 3 minutes after 8. All right, if you've been praying and you've been hoping to own your own house, then of course it is possible to do that in just 2 years. The next 2 years can be a life-changing moment for you. Yes, in just 2 years, you can own your own house with no interest repayment, only with Lakeside Estate. And Lakeside Estate has got an exclusive offer for you. And this offer gives you affordable payments, flexible home purchase plan, quality homes, and lifestyle choice. And you get to choose from a variety of beautiful homes in any of the Lakeside Hills clusters. So, of course, your future awaits. Imagine living in a home you love with the freedom to invest in your dreams without the burden of interest. Well, as a CIMG Real Estate Company of the Year for the 4th time, we offer you hassle-free home acquisition. All you have to do is to call us today. And the number to call is 020-477-5042, 020-477-5042, or 020-477-5040, 020-477-5040. Or 050-141-8622, 050-141-8622. And don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Call us now to learn more and schedule a tour of our available homes. Lakeside Estates, quality home for all. And the song you're listening to is Mini Mafe, What Will I Do? And Kamea Deng. Mini Mafe by Perez Music. All right, very soon we get into our market trend segment, and Emmanuel Barton will be joining me for that one. But please enjoy this one, Emoji Music, Mala.
When I saw they go on to scroll.
That's right. Say it. That's nobody can do me like you. Lord, my life, I go there for you. Nobody can do me like the way you do. All my life, Lord, I'll go there for you. You change my life, you turn my life around. Give me a new song to sing. Give me a new song to sing. You change my life, you turn my life around. Hey, give me a new song to sing. Give me a new song to sing.
This is Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM.
Yeah. Jesus, you're my everything, yeah. My everything is you, Lord. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Everybody say, how can I express my gratitude?
right, welcome back to the Business Breakfast on Zed. I am enjoying the song in the studio, and I hope you're doing same. But of course, the show must go on until right about now we get into our market trend segment. Emmanuel Boating, our in-house economic analyst, has joined me over the phone lines to have a conversation this morning. And like I mentioned earlier today, we're talking about the producer price inflation, the data that has been released by the Ghana Statistical Service. We want to understand exactly what that means for you as an individual, for you as a business, and what exactly is happening. What are the trends? Until we get into that conversation, by the song in the background is My Everything by Joe Metal. I know you want to continue enjoying it, but we have to continue the show. And so let's get into it right away. Emmanuel Boating is over the phone lines. Ima, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I can feel, I just sense that you were enjoying the song.
Yeah, of course, I was enjoying the song.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to still go ahead and do what we have to do. But anyway,
precisely so.
Yeah. So yesterday, the Ghana Statistical Service released the data for the PPI for the month of July. And so that is exactly what we want to look at this morning. Let's quickly run through the figures if you can help us, Ima.
Okay, thank you very much. The producer price index, which we call PPI, as it were, measures inflation that producers receive for the goods and services that they use for their production. So if you like, you can think of it as the supply side measure of price increases. Now, for July, it was 262.5. That's the index, not actually the percentage. So I'll come to the percentage. Yeah. So up from 258. So in June, it was 258.2. And we have it to be 262.5 in July. And so what we can say is that the year-on-year producer price inflation for all the goods and services was 3.8% in July 2025. So July 2025, 262.5, up from 258.2 in June 2025, and 253.0 in July 2024. Well, what are we saying? It means that the average, as it were, price from the ex-factory side for all goods and services increased by 3.8% between July 2024 and July 2025. So it's a year-on-year number as we see it. Now, this is significant because it is 2 percentage points lower than that of June. In June, it was 5.8%. It is 25.3 percentage points lower than July 2024. So compared to last year, you can see the significant drop. And I think we'll come to all of those numbers as the discussion goes on. And this is the lowest PPI that we have experienced since November 2023. And maybe finally, it is the 5th consecutive month that we've recorded a decline in the producer price inflation or index.
Wow.
Yeah. So largely, that is really what it's about. So, I mean, our index for July stands at 3.8%, down from 5.8% in June. And like I mentioned, it's 2 percentage point drop in just 1 month. I think more dramatically, when we compare this to what we saw in July, we see that producer price inflation has fallen by a massive 25.3 percentage points, because in July 2024, it was 29.1%. So 29.1% to 3.6%, that is a reduction of about 25.3 percentage points in just a year.
Wow.
And I think this 3.8% figure is noteworthy for a number of reasons. Maybe I've highlighted some. One, because it is the lowest we have seen since November 2023. Not only that, is the 5th consecutive month of reduction or a decline in the PPI. That is also very, very key. On a month-on-month basis, prices increased by 1.6% between June and July, meaning that producers are still raising prices, but at a much more moderate pace than we've seen in recent years. Like I tell you, this is inflation, so it's actually a measure of price increases. But to what extent? What is the magnitude of the increase? That is not as great as we have seen in the past. It's just 1.6% increase. And I think this trend is clearly deflationary in the medium term. This is half a year, 6 straight months of decline. It is deflationary in the medium term, and it suggests that cost pressures on producers are easing significantly across the entire Ghanaian economy.
Wow. Very, very interesting numbers there. I'm looking at them now, and I can see how interesting they are. Now, tell us, which sectors are driving this decline in the PPI, and what does that tell us about our economic structure currently?
All right, thank you very much. I think that's an important question because typically what we know about PPI is that there are some weights that are, as it were, attributable to the major activities. So there are 8 key activities when we talk about PPI. We have mining and quarrying, we have manufacturing, we have electricity and gas, then we have water supply, sewerage and waste management. Then the 5th one is construction. And then 6th, we have transportation and storage. Then 7th, we have accommodation and food services activities. Then the last one, we have information and communication. So there are 8 key sectors that make up how the PPI is determined. And each of these sectors are allocated specific weights. It is important to highlight this so that it forms a good backdrop against which the arguments are made. Now, mining and quarrying and manufacturing together make up 78.7% of the 100% weight. So these two, that's why the last time I said that if you are able to manage these two carefully, then you are able to handle the entire PPI numbers. And then, of course, the other one that has a high number is information and communication, 11.1. Mining and quarrying is 43.7, followed by manufacturing, 35.0, then ICT, 11.1, and then you can talk about electricity and gas, 4.3, and then you come to transport and storage, 2.4, then water supply, 2.3, then I think you go to construction, 0.9, and finally accommodation and food service activities, 0.4. So that is the main deal. Now, back to the question that you asked earlier. You see, the decline is being driven primarily by our 2 largest economic sectors as far as this PPI computation is concerned. Mining and quarrying and manufacturing.
Right.
They carry the heaviest weight, like I indicated. Mining and quarrying carries 43.7% of the index. And mining and quarrying saw a drop from 6.5% in June to 4.6% in July. That is about 1.9%.
Yeah.
So that 1.9 percentage points decline is key. And manufacturing, as well, which holds 35% of the index, also experienced a drop. And that was even higher than what we saw with mining and quarrying. Manufacturing actually fell from 7.2% to 3.6%. That is about a double, more or less.
So that's like 3.6.
Double 3.6,
yes,
you get
exactly.
7.2.
Yeah. So 3.6.
So that's reduced by 3.6 percentage points.
I see.
As we have the numbers given to us. So together, these 2 sectors account for nearly 79% of the producer price index. So their moderation or their decline has an outsized impact on the overall numbers. And this tells us that Ghana's economy is still heavily dependent on commodity production and basic manufacturing, which makes us more sensitive to global commodity price cycles. And you could understand why we are highly or hugely impacted when some of these global factors do not go in our favor. Interestingly, maybe I have to make that point. We are seeing some divergence across some sectors. You see, while mining and manufacturing costs are falling, electricity and gas prices actually increased from 5.1% to 6.7% inflation.
That's like 1.6 difference.
Yes. 1.6 percentage point increase. Let's not just say it's an increase.
Right. Increase, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, transportation and storage, we know they've continued to experience a decline at negative 8.1%, which is actually positive news for the broader economy. What is this suggesting? Transport costs are falling, etc., etc. Logistic costs are also falling, so because it's transportation and storage together. And I think that this sectoral analysis reveals that while input costs are moderating for producers, energy costs remains a challenge. That's what at least we learn from the data. Because the divergence, we see it with electricity, we see it with gas. Energy costs remain a challenge, which could limit how much these savings actually reach consumers. The real question is, energy costs, almost every single Ghanaian is affected by the cost of electricity, by the cost of gas. And so, although we are experiencing a decline around mining, quarrying, manufacturing, transport, we cannot overlook the surge in the cost of electricity. And in the cost of gas. And that is something that is the point of divergence in the data.
But how significant is the increase, the 1.6 increase in the electricity and gas sectors?
Well, when you look at it on the face value, it's not so much. I don't know if you get the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
It's not so much. However,
it's an
when
increase,
you look at it in relative terms, when I say relative terms, I mean in comparison to the other sectors, then it is quite significant because all your colleagues are falling and you alone are rising.
Right.
I don't know if you get the point that I'm trying to make. Yeah, everyone is falling and you are rising.
You are rising.
And that is why I'm saying that is quite significant. Of course, water and sewage is also experiencing some positive 0.5% increase if we look at it. I think from 3.6 to 4.1. Yeah. So these are very, very so
I'm looking at the
and then water.
Sure. Yeah. I'm looking at the data now, and I can see that information and communication didn't change. There was it's still the same. I see 2.6 as of June this year, and then still 2.6. What could be driving that, or if you?
Well, for me, I think that not much activity has gone on because the data you are looking at is June 2025 and July 2025. Yes. So more or less, it's a short span.
Okay.
To make a good comparison. But of course, I've also seen some work that are being done by the Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, the Honorable Sam George. I know you know what is currently going on. Perhaps if that goes through, we may see some drops in here and there. But I think largely, I am not surprised. Not just ICT, but also accommodation and food service activities. Perhaps these are also sectors that do not necessarily change in just a short period of time.
Right.
Yeah, but of course. But let's monitor and see how it goes. But that was not the case anyway in as it were for some time. But I think for this one, they remained as they were.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, maybe there's somebody listening to us and they are wondering, what does all of this mean for me? So, what exactly does this mean for the ordinary Ghanaian and consumer prices? Should households expect some relief at the retail level soon?
I think this is perhaps the most important question for every Ghanaian. You call it the ordinary Ghanaian. Of course, in Ghana, not everyone is ordinary. We have more equals. But of course, for the ordinary Ghanaian, I think the report makes a crucial point. And I think that was what the government statisticians said. If these savings reach consumers, then we could see relief. Not just any relief, real relief. The key word here is if, and I think that is important. You see, producer prices measures what manufacturers and producers receive for their goods at the factory gate before these goods reach retailers and consumers. And I think historically there's often a lag. And I think 3 months ago or so I explained that to you. There's often a lag between producer price changes and consumer price changes. It doesn't happen immediately.
Right.
It takes a bit of time, say 3 months, 6 months, depending on the way the economy is behaving. And we've seen that in this country where prices fall and then they tell you, no, I bought them at this. So it will take some time. And that also, the intuition is also correct. Imagine we are retailers. And at the time we bought a particular item and we have stocked our shops to sell to consumers, we bought it at a certain high price, say price X. Now, producers are experiencing some relief, and therefore the price at their end had reduced to, say, price 1. Until what we have in store is fully sold, once we reduce our price, then we'll be operating below the average viable cost at which we procure the things we have.
At a loss.
Exactly. And so the intuition is also right that it makes sense that we don't see the reduction find expression in retail prices immediately. There is a bit of lag, and that is why I'm saying that historically there's often a lag between producer price changes and consumer price changes. And sometimes the full benefit doesn't even get passed through due to, you know what happens with the retailers. Sometimes things are reducing, but nothing happens. It will take forever, and you are not really going to see anything.
Right.
Because sometimes they are skeptical, sometimes they are not too sure. Sometimes, this economy, we know them. After 2 months, everything will come back to factory settings and the rest of them. And so you don't see them typically reducing the prices. But I'm saying that the full benefit doesn't get passed through due to some retail markups, distribution costs, and other factors. And I think the positive signs for consumers include, I want to highlight the sectors that are very good for the consumers. Transportation costs, they are falling significantly, negative 8.1. That one you can say is clear fall in prices. We should reduce the cost of moving goods around the country, the cost of moving human beings as well around the country.
Right.
Yeah. And I think manufacturing inflation at 3.6 also suggests that producers of food, beverages, textiles, and other consumer goods are also facing lower input costs. But I want to throw in a caution. However, households should watch carefully, and I agree with the government statistician on that. He recommends that consumers should watch prices closely and question markups. And that is why we are having this discussion this morning. We know what is happening. We know which sectors are taking the hit. We know which sectors are suffering and the rest of that. And so we shouldn't be scared. We should be bold to question prices. See, transport costs are falling. That's what the data is telling us from the producer side, from the consumer side. Why are you still increasing trotro fares? Why is the Uber fare too high? We should be able to question that, how much these retailers are adding on.
You're talking about Uber. We're in this country when the prices were reduced for trotro. Everybody, seem to have reduced their prices. Uber and those ride-hailing services drivers came to tell us to our faces that they won't reduce their prices. We were in this country.
Why did they say that?
I don't know. But they told us. They told us point blank that they weren't going to reduce their prices. It's not going to affect them in any way. And that is how come we still have high prices of these ride-hailing services. And they'll tell you that umfa boats now for trotro.
Really?
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Oh yeah. It was in the news. It was in the news. I let me see if I can pull the any of those things out. They said they won't reduce their prices.
Wow. And the policymakers, those who are supposed to handle that, I think their organization is responsible for that. But at least the least we can do is to let people know. How can they say they won't reduce their prices?
I'm just seeing the story. Let me just read a portion of that. So that was in May, on the 27th of May this year. It says that no plans to reduce fares for ride-hailing users. Drivers Union declares. And this is from one of our sister stations. It says that users of ride-hailing applications such as Uber, Bolt, Yango should not expect a reduction in fares despite a recent appreciation of the cedi and a decline in fuel prices. The Ghana Online Drivers Union has clarified that the 15% fare reduction announced by the GPRTU does not apply to their services. And the person was speaking on one of the media house the stations. He says that he's the president of the Ghana Online Drivers Union, Francis Tengi. He explained that ride-hailing services were not consulted in the decision-making process. Just look at that. And
which decision-making? I'm sure that the point they are only trying to make is we are not part of that association that decided to reduce prices.
Exactly. So let me read a quote. Let me read the quote.
This is data, and you being sensitive to the data.
Exactly.
Then, of course, they don't also have any right to increase prices
when they are
are not going well. And that's unfair.
And of course,
I think the whole Uber thing is a discussion we must have.
Absolutely.
Because you see, the point is not only on they deciding not to reduce the prices. Whenever I pick an Uber or a boat, I engage with the drivers. One of the things you find is that some of them are being challenged. The amount of money they claim, or they say that whoever owns the Uber app and the like takes from them in terms of the percentage that goes to them is too harsh. It's too harsh. I think it's a discussion we need to have. It's in excess of 20%. Meanwhile, the only thing that they do for them is to connect them to customers, those who want to board an Uber or a boat, offering that space for them. And I think seriously, and that's why you find a lot of them. Usually they want off trip and the like. They usually want off trip because they don't want to pay any 20-something percent to Uber or to boat. And I think it's an area that maybe we need to dig in and maybe get government attention. I don't know why government cannot interfere into that space and try and reduce the cost to
it should be GPRTU. I mean, according to them,
and they said they
time,
announced that GPRTU.
They actually said that what a GPRTU did does not include them. You know, I don't know whether they are not recognized under maybe you have to look into that another time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's get back to our discussion because I have so many questions to ask. Yeah,
Sure.
so let's just watch prices closely and question the markups that the retailers are putting up there. And I think that we should also support the brands that pass on savings. And you know, when I say they are passing on savings, what I mean is that you see, once you reduce price, it is savings. If I buy a carton of milk for say 200 cedis and I go and it's now 150, the 50 cedis is savings to me or for me that I can use for something else, or I can decide to put in an account or something like that. Those brands should be supported. In other words, purchase from those ones. Penalize those who are not do not want to reduce their prices. So if they don't want to reduce their prices, find alternative ways to live your life. You see, the real suggestion is that while the fundamentals are improving for lower consumer prices, it is not automatic.
Right.
It is not. The lag effect is important. And maybe finally, the electricity and gas inflation of 6.7% is concerning because energy costs affect almost everything, from transportation to manufacturing to household budgets directly. So yes, it's interesting. Energy costs are going high. Imagine if we had a lot of these cars are electric vehicles, then you can understand how the transport numbers will also take a hit and the rest of that. So I think this is a very crucial question that you've asked. Prices are coming down.
Right.
It will take a while for it to reflect from the retail side. In other words, us going to buy from the market and from individual.
Right.
And we urge those who sell at the retail shops to respond to what is happening at the producer end.
But Ima, I mean, honestly, we've seen deflation for the past few months. I think somewhere from disinflation. Sorry, from the month of May down to now. In 6 months, that's when we'll begin to see the.
No, I'm saying that we've seen the
fall. Right, absolutely. So in 6 months, and we're not seeing the prices fall. But all you tell us is that
should have manifested
exactly by now.
Of course, we have to agree that has happened for the prior period. That has happened.
Well, we could say.
We see yesterday a friend was telling me the price of rice has come down, for instance, and a number of items. So prices have come down, but what I'm talking about is this immediate number that I'm speaking to. This immediate 3.8% producer price inflation is what I'm saying that it may take a bit of time for it to manifest explicitly.
So if we want
for the past ones, I am very sure because sincerely, between January and now, a lot has happened in terms of price reduction. And the proof is the steep fall in the inflation numbers. Inflation is, I think, 12.1% now. It used to be 13.7. It used to be 18.3. It used to be 23.1. So you can check from the consumer side to the price has been dropping. And in fact, it took a steep fall. And we can check when it took a steep fall as against the producer side. And you can see that the pass-through effect is clear. Really, prices are falling. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, we are not feeling it in our pockets. The last time we felt something like that in our pockets was somewhere in May.
Oh, really? But I think that maybe for this, maybe the real impact will be in August, September, October, maybe around that time, October, November.
We might be seeing
That's
some.
why I say that all other things being equal, inflation should hit a single digit before the end of the year, even when it is current.
All right, let's touch on a few things before we go. Now, maybe there are businesses listening to us as well. I mean, we're speaking to ordinary Ghanaians. How should the businesses interpret these numbers, and what strategic adjustments should they consider around this time?
You know, for businesses, these numbers present them with both some level of opportunities and challenges. And I say this because, you see, the Statistical Service specifically recommends that businesses should rethink pricing and renegotiate smartly. The opportunity is clear. Input costs are falling across major sectors, but true. Businesses should be aggressively renegotiating supplier contracts because these businesses directly buy from the suppliers, where the price fall is explicit act,
right,
or is heavily experienced at as we talk about it. So they should be aggressive in their negotiation with their suppliers, especially mining companies, manufacturers, and logistics providers. And I think companies that lock in lower input costs now, while their competitors are slow to adjust, will gain competitive advantage. So it is essential for you to renegotiate for your prices to come down, because once that happens, your input cost will be low. If your input cost is low, you produce at a cheaper cost, your prices on the market will be reduced, and therefore you have a competitive edge. Which consumer doesn't like to buy at a lower price relative to other people who are selling on the market? All other things being equal. At a lower price, more of a good is offered for sale. So that is really the whole point I'm making. So for you to be highly competitive, your negotiation must be strong. However, there's also a warning about tighter margins. You see, as producer costs fall, competitive pressure will force businesses to pass some savings to consumers. Why? They more or less that risk of losing market share, because you also don't want to lose your market share. So the businesses that will thrive are those that use this cost relief to invest in innovation and efficiency improvement, not just adjusting prices. You need to be innovative. You need to be efficient at what you do, because that will also count in your total output or your productivity on the market. And that also translates into some gains for you. And I think maybe finally, the manufacturing sector data is particularly instructive. We see huge variation from motor vehicle manufacturing at 35.8, because let me also add, when you open up the sectors, there are sub-sectors under them. And that's also an important point to note. So there are some variation. Motor vehicle manufacturing at 35.8% inflation, down to wood products at negative 13.5% deflation. So smart businesses will be analyzing these sub-sector trends to identify which suppliers and input materials offer the best cost-saving opportunities. And lastly, for the services, I think the near zero inflation rate of 0.5 suggests a highly competitive environment where pricing power is limited. So if you are within the service sector, more of what you need to be doing is innovation, service quality, good customer service, etc., etc. For you, reducing price would not really give you a competitive edge. Rather, it will even put you behind the seat. What the data is suggesting, 0.5% is not very significant to, as it were, trigger economic decision. And you need to look at other strategies like innovation, like better service quality, among others, for you to have a competitive edge on the market.
Right. Okay. So business owners, Masoma, I know this should some way somehow tell us something about the monetary policy and the Bank of Ghana stance. What does this particular trend suggest about that?
Well, the policy is working. I don't know how else I'll be able to put it. You see? Of course, somebody who does not truly have too strong a background of what we have been through as an economy will quickly rush and say it provides room for the central bank to cut the policy rate, because that's what really this means. That, the policy rate was just cut by 300 basis points a month ago, or if you like this month, early this month. the point is that is also part of the reasons why we are seeing this number.
Right.
And I think a 6 consecutive months of decline isn't temporarily, as it were, something that will last for a short time. But I think it's a sustained trend because 6 months is half a year. That's quite sustained. And so it gives Bank of Ghana that room to test the effectiveness of the policy cuts they have done and how well it is working. And for me, if you ask me, even if they will want to reduce the policy rate because of what is happening, maybe not more than 100 basis points. But then, of course, the expectation is that they will maintain it to further monitor how things will go, because it's not just based on producer price inflation. That is not only based on prices that you reduce or increase policy rates. The other things that are relevant in the economy that you need to keep an eye on. You see, the central bank will be watching several factors. Electricity and gas inflation, that's suggesting some level of inflation around that area. Month-on-month increase in pricing also shows that prices are still rising, albeit slow, just that it is rising at a decreasing rate or at a slower pace. So the Bank of Ghana will likely want to see this trend continue for some more months, and will be closely monitoring how these producer price changes translate to consumer prices before making any significant policy adjustments. And I think that in the end, the goal will be to support economic growth without reigniting inflation, because inflation itself has an impact on economic growth. And for me, I think the policy is working. I think that they would have to, or they would want to monitor how these prices manifest at the consumer side, and then they can make adjustments to their policy in order for them to be able to substantially support the growth or the pace at which the economy is growing. Without necessarily exacerbating inflation trends in the country.
Right. Okay, we have to go now. Our time is up. But what are the implications for government policy, and what should policymakers prioritize based on these numbers?
The government faces a critical window of opportunity, if you ask me. And the Statistical Service specifically recommends that government should lock in stability, they should boost production, and support key sectors like mining and manufacturing with smart incentives in order to drive demand, protect jobs, and keep the momentum strong. See, priority number one should be maintaining macroeconomic stability. These positive trends could easily reverse if fiscal discipline is abandoned, or if the external sector shocks, what is happening on the external environment, external markets, if there are some shocks from there, we can see a reversal. So the government should resist any temptation to dramatically increase spending just because inflation is moderating. That is priority number one. Number two, we want to see some targeted support for growth-enhancing sectors, productive sectors of the economy. With mining and manufacturing driving the improvement, the government should consider tax incentives, infrastructure investments, and some regulatory reforms that support these sectors' competitiveness. But government will want to relook at some other key sectors like agriculture, very key, and see what kind of policies will be able to engineer and anchor substantial growth from that area. Because at the end of the day, it is food on the table that will matter to every ordinary person. At the end of fasting now, and maybe number three, addressing the energy cost challenge.
Right.
Electricity and gas inflation at 6.7%. Maybe we can understand the energy issue as well. We are aware of some of the tariffs in that area. Yeah, but for me, I'm quite surprised. At the heart of all this, there is a 1 cedi fuel levy, and transportation cost is still falling. What is the government doing differently? That is anchoring this. But that is what the data tells us, and you cannot say anything beyond what the data.
Very interesting question.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think the government should also be preparing for the potential need to support employment if businesses use this cost relief to improve efficiency rather than expand production, because businesses will have alternatives and they decide exactly what to do. Social protection programs may become very important if companies use lower costs to reduce workforce than to grow their operations.
All right. Okay, Ima, so let me let you go now. Do you have any final words to put across, or we're good?
I think that the sustainability of the trend that we have seen depends on both global and domestic factors. On the positive side, if the global commodity market remains stable and supply chains continue to normalize, then Ghana should see continued moderation in producer costs. The structural improvement in transportation costs suggest some domestic efficiency gains that could be permanent. However, several risks bear watching. Vulnerability to global commodity shocks is one, particularly in oil and minerals. Electricity and gas inflation is two, and then maybe currency stability will also be crucial. The bigger opportunity is what economists will call disinflationary dividend. Lower producer costs, if sustained, could allow for faster economic growth without triggering inflation. This could enable some job creation, some increased investment, and improve living standards at large. And I think for this to happen, Ghana needs continued macroeconomic stability, investment in productive capacity, and policies that ensure that these cost savings reach consumers rather than just improving producer margins. It's not about the numbers. It's about how the quality of life of the ordinary Ghanaian is improved. The next few months will be critical for all of us. If we can maintain this trend through the rest of the year, then Ghana will be positioning itself for a period of stable, sustainable economic growth with low inflation, something that has been elusive in this economy or in this country in recent years.
All right, Yuma, thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for the insight you've shared with us this morning.
You're welcome.
All right, please enjoy the rest of your day. All right, that was Emmanuel Boateng, our economic analyst, and helping us understand the producer price index really, and what exactly is happening there. Very, very interesting stuff. And he says that, hey, ordinary Ghanaian, I mean, you listening to me, if you're an ordinary Ghanaian, then what you can do in times like this is to question prices. All right, if you're a business as well, negotiate the prices when you go to your supplier. And those are some of the things that you can do as it applies to your life directly. All right, so we will move on to our roundtable discussion now. We're going to have a conversation today. We're talking about Wales. We're talking about, estate planning, really. And so we're going to talk about that right away. But we'll take a quick music break, and then when we return, my guest will join me for this conversation. Enjoy. Thank you. Bye from here.
I know full of fly, I go play me crew. Smart boy, me go pay, me go pay the to. See a daddy, who yeah, dream this. I dream fit piano trip. I don't pay my sorry me to me gaza, pay me last. You hear me saying, get a game, me call me back, pay me last. If you be, no, they be, in your name, no, pay me last. They don't want me behind me, nisa, see me try me last. I like building, a dry, a poto, jama winky. Missy was some from you, I'm feeling dance. I'm on time, it was swam, I go kunipa. So every day I do pray about pressure. Me real one, I'm a guys, I'm a gangster. No matter what, we go carry on. Anywhere that we don't go far. Beautiful soul, I don't die. Say why you ever darling. I don't pay my sorry, me to me, gaza. Pay me last. You hear me saying, get a game, me call me back, pay me last. If you be, no, they be, in your name, no, pay me last. They don't want me behind me, nisa, see me try me last. Listen, yes, yeah, je me tiase. Nyamia do me won kwa me tiase. Minye bi me party. Make a clear na do go kanje. I know go full of fly, me go play me crew. Smart boy, me go pay, me go pay the to. See a daddy, who yeah, dream this. I dream fit piano trip. No matter what, we go carry on. Anywhere that we don't go far. You're too so at the time. Say why you ever darling. I don't pay my sorry, me to me gaza, pay me last. You hear me saying, get a game, me call me back, pay me last. If you be, no, they be, in your name, no, pay me last. Yo, mommy, be a mini so. See me driving, I say.
Liquid beats.
Say na me da na me see me say me got to move na me see ya kwa me kubi ya ba na me na se kan ya ma konta cause we are simo bi show bi be timi ya ju ma den na ma tipe aban you met so me chilipi is a day ka crevi me boni mi Friday wa kubi na ma club me na ba ya wa kubi na ma choke one corner one gana so ti asia na na ama I brand my bro, me young commander. But me music, I'm a baby, no other. I'm a baby, no other. Tell me, Pano, come on, you. Tell me, Pano, come and move it. I get to give me the survey. I get to get in the survey. Tell me, Pano, come on, you. Tell me, Pano, come and move it. I get to get in the survey. Get it, come in the survey.
Praise the Lord, hallelujah, in the highest. Nyawa and yo, nyame, was it and yo, nyame. All by your mercy and your grace, I am grateful. You've turned my life around. Now I'm a shining star.
Yeah, I say about this kind of man, I'm daddy. Me this cow, me go to but I'm a planet. I know what I could do, more routine, I have me. Dima temen kame kuti bona wabe kame Boka masande vya minke Mene oka na use minke I'm focused The best I'm yami homeless Enche wanafe Abe boss and ben amante They say my songs be a real kwan And so minti be a just having kwan I know go run from me Today them say they me Nani na me da wase Mama tafon gozo tiase Teni pano kamani Teni pano kamani nufi Kagete give me the survey
This is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM.
Praise the Lord, hallelujah, in the highest. Nyawa and yo, nyame, was it and yo, nyame. All by your mercy and your grace, I am grateful. You turned my life around. No one can shine a star.
This is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM.
All right, welcome back to the Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. It's time for us to get into our roundtable discussion for today. And as you're well aware, today we're talking about something that too many of us put off but shouldn't. We're talking about protecting your legacy through a will. Protecting your legacy through a will. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or you're building wealth step by step, this is a decision you have step by step. This is a decision you have to make, and if you don't make, it can shape the future of your future, and either positively or negatively. So later, right now we've been joined by two seasoned lawyers. I have Daniel Nkrumah. He's a practicing lawyer with AB and David Africa. And also, Kwame Eduse is also a lawyer with the same firm. And these are the two gentlemen going to help us have the conversation this morning. Gentlemen, good morning. You're welcome to the Business Breakfast on Zed.
Good morning, Lee, and thank you very much for having us.
Right. So who just spoke? Is it Daniel?
This is Kwame.
Kwame. Okay. All right. Daniel, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. Again, greetings to your cherished listeners as well.
Great. Good to have the two of you for this all-important conversation. I believe it's very important, but let's start from the basics. What exactly is a will, and why is it so important, even for someone who doesn't consider themselves wealthy? And I'll start with you, Kwame Eduse, because you started the conversation.
Very well. Good morning again, and greetings to your listeners. So, a will, as much as possible, we would want the discussion to be relatable, and so we do away with all the legalese.
Okay.
And then just say it as it is.
Sure.
A will is essentially a document based off of which a person puts down his or her wishes in terms of how his estates, that is his property, should be distributed upon his death.
Right.
So basically, you are making arrangements regarding your assets and your affairs in the events that you are called by your maker and you are no longer among the living. So basically, that is what a will is.
Why is it so important?
That's a good question. You see, the truth is, we may all have our ambitions and things that we look forward to in life. At the end of the day, I think one common thing among all of us is we all have aims and we are trying to achieve something. And the saddest thing that can happen is to work your ass off your entire life, try to gather some properties somewhere with the intention to leave it for your children or your spouse. And then it becomes necessary, having advanced that intention, to put in place measures to realize that intention. That is why a will becomes very important, because once you are dead and gone, you no longer have the power to come back and say Kofi should have this or Amma should have this. And so there is that opportunity that's under our legal system. You have been provided with that opportunity to arrange your affairs. In default of which, that is, if you are unable to do that, then the law will put in place measures on how we should distribute your assets. And so, because you have planned on how succession to your property should go, then it becomes important for you to put this into writing and follow the appropriate procedure for doing a will, so that when you are no longer there, we will be able to give effect to your intentions and desires. That is why it is important to make a will.
Wow. All right. Let me come to you, David. Now, David, you tell us also, maybe from where you also sit, if there's anything you want to add to that about the importance, or if you want to also clarify a few things in terms of what exactly a will is. Please go ahead. Or Daniel, sorry, not David, Daniel.
Okay. Thank you. And greetings to your listeners again. Yes, so my colleague have essentially given you what essentially is a will. The other thing I'll add up to that is that, as he's saying that it is, you have to follow due process to make sure that you get your will. The due process that you require to follow is governed by statutes. The country has provided statutes that you can follow to get your will drafted. That is the Wills Act.
Okay.
So when you go through the Wills Act, it tells you the procedure that or what you need to do for you to get the will. And then through that's where you can now get a lawyer to now sit and then draft the will for you.
Right.
And as we were saying, in the absence of the requirement for you to follow the Wills Act or get your will drafted, as he said, that when you are not alive, if you go away and you don't do the will, the how do you call it? The country will set in, or the laws will set in to create where your property should go. That is also governed by the Interstate Succession Act,
right?
Which is what people know commonly as the PNDCL 111. And if you remember, during the last Parliament, there was a discussion in Parliament that they want to amend that bill, that law. I mean that act. There was a discussion where it was in Parliament that they want to amend that act. It has not yet gone through. So these are the major statutory laws that governs your estates that you live. And on the importance, it's such that maybe at the time you were living, you had in mind that, oh, maybe this car you bought and this house that you have, when you pass away, you hope that it should go to maybe your grandmother. You don't want it to go to maybe your wife or maybe your kid, because you're giving them something different. But because you were not able to sit down and do the, sometimes people actually are afraid to do a will because they feel like if they do the will, even that they are almost admitting or planning that they are dying soon. But in actual fact, it is an inevitable thing that you will die.
Right.
So once you have property, you always have to start planning about it. And so when you have this intention that you want to give it to your grandmother, and that particular house you want to give to your grandmother, but you were not able to do it, and then you go away. If issues comes up after your after your death, your spouse may be the one to have access to that property. Because when it goes to court and they are doing the interstate succession distribution, the court may choose that particular property that you intended that it should go to your grandmother should rather go to your wife or someone essentially you didn't intend it to go to. So that's why it's very, very important that what is in your mind, you put it. And our courts have made us understand clearly that when it comes to will, once you put your will in a document, the court gives it exact meaning as you want it to be. So they don't go outside to import anything into it. It means that you want to actually realize your own intentions through what you've written.
Right.
So if you don't do that, then that is where we open the door to use what the country has provided in the PNDC 111 to determine who should get what.
What exactly? Right. I see very, very interesting things. And I like the fact that, I mean, the two of you have clarified it very well. Essentially, it's about putting your house in order before you're passing. Right. Many people confuse wills, trusts, and also intestacy. Can you break down the difference in simple terms for our listeners? And let me come back to you, Kwame.
So I'll begin with the last term that you used, intestacy. And I'll distinguish that with testate succession.
Right.
Essentially, we are looking at a situation where you die with or without a will. If you die having made a will, then your succession will be described as testate succession because it is derived from the term testaments. And so your will is a testamentary document.
Okay.
And then if you die without making a will, then you are described as an intestate. And then the succession to your property will also be governed by the intestate succession laws. And so that is the main difference. Whether you died with or without a will will describe whether succession to your property can be described as testate succession or intestate succession. Then we have already described what a will is.
Yeah.
That is the document that embodies your wishes and intentions about your affairs and your property upon death. The key thing that distinguishes that from a trust is that a trust, unlike a will, does not necessarily take effect upon the death of the person. For a trust, it is, I like to explain trust using the English word entrust.
Okay.
If you want to entrust something with someone, it means you have put in the hands of the person.
Yeah.
And so for trust, we are looking at a situation where one person owns a property. That person is someone that we will call the settler. And then that person wants to give the property to another person. That person to whom the property is being given is more like an intermediary. And so we call him a trustee.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the trustee is only holding the property in trust for the benefits of another person who is the beneficiary.
Right.
And so in the typical trust relationship, we have three parties: the settler who acquires the property, he wants to give it to the beneficiary, but he is putting the property in the hands of the middleman, who is the trustee.
Okay.
There are a number of reasons why someone would want to do a trust.
I was actually coming to ask you.
Yes, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Let's say a parent acquires land or any other property, but he acquired it for the benefits of his children who are minors. Under our law, there are certain properties that you must have attained the age of majority before you can hold such property. One of them is land.
The age of what?
And
Maturity?
Majority.
Majority.
That is 18.
Okay.
So if you are a minor, technically and legally, you cannot be said to have legal title to land. And so what can happen is that your father or mother who provided the money to buy the land for you would either appoint himself or another person to hold that property in trust for the benefits of the minor, the child. And so that is a typical example of a trust relationship.
Right.
An example also would be maybe a bank account or any fund that is created for the benefits of the children who are the beneficiaries. And then you appoint someone else to be the trustee, the caretaker, for the benefits of the beneficiaries.
Okay.
I would just want to clarify that it is not always the case that the beneficiary must be a minor. But in any situation at all where someone wants to create a trust, it does not matter that the beneficiary is a minor or an adult. You can create a trust for different purposes. The key distinguishing element between the will and the trust is that the will only takes effect upon the death of the person who makes it. That person, in law, we call that person the testator.
Yeah.
But in the case of trust, it can take effect from today as you have made it. And so even whilst you are alive, you can create a trust. But then again,
I wanted to ask that why is it that why do I have to create a trust if I'm still alive and I can eventually give it to the person?
Okay, that's a good question. There are a number of reasons why a settler would want to do that. First of all, sometimes I'll give you an example where you are trying, the settler has made investments, let's say in hospitality industry, in a number of companies, is entitled to some dividends. So let's say you're entitled to income or dividends from different sources. Now, you want to create a long-term structure where your kids or your siblings or your spouse is going to benefit from this in the future. You may decide that you want the income or the investment to mature to a certain amount before they can benefit from it. Otherwise, if you give it to them now, they'll probably spend all the money, and in the future they'll become broke. So what you would want to do is to create something like a trust fund, okay, where you create a pool into which all the investments will be paid. Then it will be managed by a trustee. The trustee can even be a corporate body, like a bank or a trust company,
Okay.
which manages these investments. And the role of the trustee is so important that trustees are even given the responsibility to invest this money into other potentially viable investments that will yield income for the benefit of the beneficiaries. And so sometimes you're looking at long-term benefits for generations, what we call trust fund babies. So you would want to make that arrangement for the benefits of the beneficiaries, some of whom may not even have been born at the time that you are doing the trust.
Right.
And so you may be alive, yes, but the purpose and the intention of the trust would necessitate that you create this trust for them to benefit from it at a future date.
I see.
Then I was going to mention another key point that distinguishes the trust from the will.
Okay, sure.
You see, as Daniel mentioned, the trust is governed by the will. Sorry, the wills are governed by Wills Act of 1971, and so there are certain formalities that you must follow after you have prepared the will. You have signed it in the presence of your witnesses and everything. You're supposed to deposit a copy at the court. For the trust, and so for the trust, I would say you don't need to follow all of that procedure.
I see.
To create a trust. And so that's another distinguishing element.
So what are the processes for creating? I know we're going to come to all the processes, I mean, of creating a will and also this one, but I'm curious about the trust. What are the processes?
Okay, so a trust is essentially a private document, and so you would have to put it into writing. Do what we call a deed of trust. Now, with this deed of trust, of course, you get an expert like a lawyer to draft it. And the important thing you need is the person that you want to be the trustee must give his or her consent.
Right.
And so the lawyer will prepare the deed of trust, and then you execute it. This deed of trust will basically set out the person that you are appointing as the person you want to be the beneficiary, or the persons that you want to be the beneficiaries of the trust. You are also going to identify the specific assets, the properties that you want to be held in trust for the benefit of the beneficiaries. You are also going to outline any specific duties that you want the trustee to perform. For instance, I mentioned the duty of the trustee to invest. You may decide that you do not want this trustee to touch the money by way of investment, but only to look after it. So the trust deed will spell out the duties of the trustee, what he is expected to do for the benefit of the beneficiaries. You may set out, for instance, the time of maturity. So, for instance, you can say that at this particular point, or when the beneficiaries attain a particular age, then you, the trustee, should transfer it to the beneficiaries. Having done all of this, then it must be duly signed. In terms of registration and stamping and all of that, it is only in the latest situation where the property that you are given to the trustee to hold for the benefit of the beneficiaries involves a piece of land, then it becomes necessary for the deed of trust to be presented to Lands Commission for the necessary stamping and registration.
Right.
So that if the trustee is dealing with the land, then on the record, we would know that it is you, the landowner, who has given him that authority to deal with it.
To deal with that.
But quite apart from that, it is purely a private document, and once you have duly executed it, it will become enforceable.
I see. Okay. Once we've spoken about the trust, let's talk briefly about the wills as well. And I'll come to you, Daniel, to do that for us. Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Yeah, Daniel. So just also run us through the processes for crafting a will.
Yes. So essentially, with will, it's also more or less like a private arrangement that you do. As my colleague said in relation to the trust.
Yeah.
This one, as I said earlier on, you follow the make it simple. You follow the Wills Act, and the Wills Act makes us aware that when you want to create a will, you first have to ensure that it is in writing. We don't have wills done orally. It has to be in writing. That's the first thing that when you're creating a will, it requires from you. The second thing is that the will must have witnesses.
Okay.
It must have witnesses, and the witnesses shouldn't include someone who is the beneficiary, unless the number of witnesses that you are going to use actually exceeds 2. Because the law provides that you should have not less than 2.
You mean two witnesses?
Witnesses.
Okay, right.
Not less than them. But in the instance where you are creating the will, normally we encourage that you shouldn't have in it someone who is also a beneficiary
right,
to that will, so that you avoid as much as possible any instance where someone may challenge the will and to bring issues to what you intended to put out. Then also, as we know, that it can go to a number of beneficiaries. You do not need to worry about how many people can you actually distribute your properties to. It can go as far as even those you never plant to that are not closer to you. You can give them something in your own will. It is your private arrangement, so nobody determines who to get what. You get it?
Yeah.
Now, usually when you someone will say those who are the witnesses, I wouldn't want to use the term that I'm going to know. So those who normally are the witnesses of the will, should they see the content of what you've put in the will? The law does not say you should see it.
Okay.
The key thing is that you know that you are signing a particular document.
Okay, so what they would do is that they will just come and endorse the form without knowing what exactly is in there.
Fundamentally, the key thing is that there is nothing requiring for them to show, for the person creating the will to show you the content of what is in the will.
So technically, who knows exactly what is in the will apart from the one who is the one willing the things?
Only him.
Okay.
Only
Not
him.
even the lawyer.
Yeah, the lawyer who drafts, and then the person who wants the will prepared for
him. Right. Okay.
Because what is the end? The end. We don't want the situation where, because wills can create disputes
and
between the people, and it may lead to unwanted situations. So the law doesn't want to open that room for those situations. So we make it as much as possible. The person who is drafting the will of course, he has the deeds because he's a lawyer.
Yeah.
But there's confidentiality relationship between the client and the lawyer.
And
so
the
lawyer is expected not to bring it out.
Right.
And then the person who wants that will drafted for him knows. But the beneficiaries of the will are not required to know what is inside the will until the death of the person.
The person.
And then the people who signs. And also we have executors. Executors are those that you put up in the will that should your demise happen, they should come in, take the will, and then ensure its implementation. They are the people. So it is not automatically as soon as the will you pass away, the beneficiaries go and then start. No, there is executors.
How many executors? Daniel, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking that how many executors actually do that?
The law doesn't give a limit, but you can have 2 apples.
Right, 2 apples. Okay, so
limit you to 4, 5, or but at least if you have 2, that helps you.
So what if there are lots of things in there, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. But what if there's an instance where the executors, including the one who wrote the will, all 3 of them, maybe the person used two witnesses, 2 executors, and the person who is actually willing the stuff, all 3 of them, for instance, die in an accident. What happens?
That is a brilliant quick question. That all the executors are not available.
Yeah.
So when that happens, that the court would normally step in to find. Sometimes it is, it allows the court. The Wills Act allows the court to give some form of interpretation to ensure that your will is being enforced.
Okay.
So normally when you create the will, you deposit it at the court. You deposit at the court, and then when you deposit at the court, it's for the court to ensure that your will is enforced. So even if it gets there is no clue as to who is the executor at that moment. The court step in with certain rules of interpretation to create one for you. That's what happens. The court step in. It's more or less like how intestate succession happens. If you don't make a will, normally the law creates people who can step in to manage your properties for you and show how it should be distributed. And those people are the administrators. And it's somebody guided by the court to ensure that some of these things are done. So it's the same thing that will happen to the will. In the instance where none at all exists, the court will call in the rules of interpretation to guide in determining who to show the distribution of your will.
Okay, all right. So were you done with the processes?
Yes. So essentially, after you do that, the law requires you that you need to ensure that your will is deposited at the court, as I said earlier on. And once it's deposited at the court, after your death, that is when it is applied. The executors would have to apply to the court through a process to ensure that they get the will sort of enforced for you. And normally, in creating a will, if let's say I create my own will today, and next 2 months I want to create another will, the law is saying that in doing so you don't have to have 2 wills created at the same time. We want to have one type of will governing your property. So even if you create a second will, the law creates a room where the 2 wills would have to be merged.
Right. Or
if you don't do that, it will be assumed that you created the property, the will for property A, which is your house in Asalam Down, and then in August and in December you made certain disposition on the same property again in your second will. The law will take it that second will you made in December supersedes the August one. So normally when you are creating the will, you need to ensure that some of these properties that you've created wills on already are matched, or they are clearly distinguished, so that you don't create that dispute where your intention will be substituted with another thing in the second will that you created. So essentially that is how the will is done. You prioritize it. Ultimately, you always need to ensure that you get a lawyer, because trust me, when you pass away, there will be a lot of interpretation that would have to go into your will. And so when you get a lawyer to help you do the drafting, it helps you, saves you a lot of problems after your demise. And then it goes through the process of enforcement before the distribution starts happening.
All right. Thank you very much, Daniel and Kwame. Hold on for me. So if you just tune in, this is Business Breakfast on Zed 101.9 FM with me, Trebi Hammond. And this morning we're talking about protecting your legacy through a will. And we spent so much time on the basics already. But if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to send us a WhatsApp on 0544 321019, 0544 321019, and I repeat it again, 0544 321019. You can as well call me on 030395661, 030395661, and then I give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please drop a comment. I will read them for you. If you need you want to clarify any of the things that they're speaking about, feel free to reach out. Now, let me come back to you, Kwame. Now, Kwame, across Ghana, what is the trends? What exactly are the trends when it comes to preparing wills and all of that? Do you think that people are doing that or not?
It will be difficult to tell across Ghana whether people are doing it or not. But in my experience, I would say that people are making the efforts, and I think people need to be sensitized, and I think shows like this are important to let people understand that the fact that you are making a will does not mean that you are going to die. And I think these things help to enlighten people about the whole process.
Right.
And I think there was a point in time, I think somewhere around from 81 to 85, when the PNDC law 111 was passed, for instance, I think a lot of effort was put into educating people about PNDC law 111, that our grandmothers and great-grandmothers who may not necessarily understand what is within that law even have an idea about what it entails. And I think the same thing applies to the making of wills. As much as we are making the effort to speak on shows like this, we are going to our churches, our mosques, the trading centers and places to educate people about the need to make a will. It also helps in the overall scheme of things to make people know that this is also another option that you can arrange your affairs.
Okay, great. All right. I don't know if Daniel, you can tell us maybe even more specifically, but if not, then let's look at some of the misconceptions. And Kwame, you just mentioned one. You talk about the fact that people think that when they put in their will, they are about to die or something. There's a question on my mind before we come to the misconceptions. Sometimes, does somebody who is about to die, how do I even put this? So let's say somebody's about to die. We watch in movies and all of that. Sometimes somebody's about to die and then they go like, okay, I'm almost dying, stuff like that. And they mention certain things that they've done or they put in place and they should go to certain people. Do those things qualify as wills? Kwame.
Okay. Fortunately, because the making or preparation of wills is governed by statutes, you must comply with what the statute says. That is the Wills Act. And the Wills Act is very unequivocal about how to make a will. It says that the will must be in writing.
Okay.
And so, under those circumstances, and I'll break this down. The first answer that I will give is that technically that will not qualify as a will under the Act. Then, as you know, whenever lawyers speak in general terms, we come to the exceptions. So, under the same Wills Act, exceptions have been made. For instance, a person who is in the armed forces can make what we call the armed forces will, where you are permitted to make a will which is not even in writing. So imagine an army officer who is wounded in battle and about to die or something like that.
Yeah.
That person is entitled to make such a will, even though it's not in writing, to as long as there are witnesses to attest to the fact that he made this will. Then I'll come to our cultural setting where someone is on the sick bed and makes some declarations as to how things are to be distributed.
Yeah.
So quite apart from the Wills Act, which we have just discussed, we also know that our laws in Ghana is a mixed bag of what Parliament has enacted and also what we practice as part of our customs and traditions. And so we have our customary laws. And before the British came to Ghana to colonize us and introduce us to the making of wills in writing, our forefathers were given directions as to how their assets should be distributed upon them. And so all these things were passed on orally. And that is what's in Twi, we call it the Samansil. And so the Samansil, which is the customary will, is also recognized under our laws. And that would be the situation you have described. But again, customary law is also law. And so if you want to make a customary law will or the Samansil, then you must also follow what has been laid down by our forefathers to be the appropriate customary procedure for making a Samansil. For instance, there are certain people who should be present because, you know, under our customary law, traditionally, when a person dies, we say that his property becomes family property. And so if you want to create a different situation, that is to say, you do not want the entire family to have the property, but you want specific people to have it, and you are doing this orally while on your sick bed or something like that, then those family members who would have otherwise been entitled to it, at least some of them must be present so that in the future, to avoid the estate dispute that Daniel referred to,
right,
they would know that you made this customary will on your sick bed. They were present and they cannot deny it. And so, to answer your question simply, two different regimes. Under the Wills Act, it must be in writing, unless you fall under the exception for the armed forces will. Quite apart, the law permits you to make, and that also must be done in accordance with the procedure that is known under the customary law of the particular area, because we do not have a across Ghana.
Kwame, we keep losing you. Yeah. So maybe if you can take what you were talking about, quite apart from that, apart from the fact that you can, I mean, the law makes room for that. The law makes room for it to be documented, I mean, in writing, and also unless you are a member of the armed forces, and that allows that. So you are saying that you are giving us the flip side of that, and I think we lost you.
Okay, I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay.
So I was going to the customary law will to say that quite apart from, we also have our customary laws which permits a person to do a customary law will, which is the Samansil, which does not need to be in writing.
Right.
As long as it complies with the custom of Nancy Hills from. And I was making we do not have a uniform customary laws Ghana, because customary law is determined by the particular. The Asantes have their customs and traditions. Ewes have, and I believe even within these bigger groups, there are specific communities that may have slightly different customs. And so if you want to make a customary will, then depending on where you hail from, you must ensure that you comply.
You comply, right?
But at the very members who would have other title to your property upon death must, at least some of them must be present, so that subsequently they cannot deny that you made this customary or samasio.
All right. Hello, Kwame. Are you still with us? Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Did you
Thank
catch
you.
what I said?
Yeah, I got it. I think I got it. Thank you very much.
Yes, and
you want to add something, Daniel?
yes. Just brief. First, on your question about the number of people who have created a will in Ghana, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the Ghana Statistical Service has not given us data on that, but there in 2 years ago there was a research that was actually conducted, and then it has been affirmed in several sources that are not Ghanaian based do. There are few Ghanaian sources that are making references to those one, but substantially, when you take a ratio of 10 people, you'll get a maximum of 2 in that you will see that they've actually created a will to govern their property. So it actually shows that there is more work that needs to go into it when it comes to educating the people on this will. And then it's key, because when you look at our Ghanaian society, dominantly it's not a country with people who see themselves that they are actually rich. So there is that myth in the system that I'm not rich, so why should I create a will? But the law does not make it that you must have money before you create a will. And so whether you are rich, you are well-to-do, you are wealthy, you are average, whatever status of your financial or assets is, the law requires that even if you have one property, you have to create a will. And the other challenge is that people also ask, so can the person who is creating the will, if it decides that he wants to give, let's say, his very big story building house is built to a completely third person that does not come closer to him in the family, let's assume that he went for a business program somewhere, he met a certain friend, the friend just gave him a very good advice. That's all. They've never met again, but he has other close people plus his family. And then he didn't give anything to the family at all. When he gives that property to that person he met once, can you go for that property? Because it is not actually fair that you do that. But the law is always that it's not about the fairness or unfairness of the will.
Right.
The law says that he has the right to determine who to get what. Just that we've made it possible that, be it the case, there's the direct family members, which are the spouse and then the children, should always get something. And also sometimes some people may also be thinking, oh, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old, so I'm entitled to a will for my father. In the estate of in his estate, but the law does not bind your father or your mother to actually give you a will or to make you part of the beneficiaries in his will. So long as you exceed the age of majority, he is not required to provide for you.
Right.
He's not required to provide. He can do that, but if you are a young, but you are still a minor, then certainly once he still have the responsibility of taking care of you, he can provide the will to actually give you. So it's not automatic that because you are a child of the person, at any stage of your life, he should give you something or he should give you what you need. That is additional thing I want to also make. And then with our Ghanaian society, as my colleague Edusei said, you always have to know when you are going with the interstate approach. You always have to know the family that you are going, especially when you have to do it marriage. You always have to know the family that you are going to, because we have the matrimonial society and then the patrilineal society. So where there is no will, those lineages also comes in to determine how the distribution of properties would also go. So always, before you think about making an argument of the properties that your spouse is having, you have to also find out whether, if a will has not been done, the society that he belongs, how do they actually go about when it comes to the distribution, before you can jump into making any argument and all that may not come with this. So that is the addition that I want to
add to that. Right. Thank you very much, Daniel. So we have so much to cover, but it looks like there's a lot of things also on the will and the basics. I mean, the foundations of the things we want to talk about today. I have some messages coming through. So hopefully we can have a part 2 of this conversation. We want to speak to producer, and then we see how we can do it.
Yeah, I think it will help, because it's a very broad topic.
Exactly.
And people need to be educated about
That's true. We'll probably have to do a part 2. But a few questions that have come through. This one is coming from Sheila. She says that, please, I have a question. What if the person does not have a will, but recorded a video as evidence as to how his properties should be shared amongst his family? And also, what if he writes them down in his diary as evidence? So let's address that one quickly. Let me come to you, Kwame.
I'll have to admit that is a very interesting question.
Very, very interesting.
The Wills Act requires that it must be in writing. It is that plain, that it must be in writing.
Right.
And it's not just that, as Daniel said, after you have written your will, whether it's in your own handwriting or it has been typed for you, you also have to append your signature. So you must sign it. Then there must be at least 2 people who would be there to see that you are appending your signature, or 2 people that you are going to show your signature to, that, hey, this is a document and this is my signature on it. I want you to attest that I have put my signature. Those are the witnesses. And those people are also required to execute it, that is, to sign on the document. And so it becomes difficult on how practically this can be done in the case of a video.
Right.
We have not had a case where this had been tested in court. But in terms of what the law is at the moment, it requires that it must be in writing, executed by the testator who makes the will, and then attested to by at least 2 witnesses.
But don't you think that, I mean, because now times have changed, don't you think, I mean, at the time we were writing these laws, there wasn't anything like videos, or even if there was, it wasn't, I mean, quite, I mean, in the magnitude that we see today. So don't you think that there needs to be some amendments in terms of that to accommodate this video wills and all of that?
Very, very well. I mean, it's a good point to note. I'm not sure there were no videos in 1971. Certainly there were videos in 1971.
Yeah, so I'm saying that even if there were, now the way people have phones and everybody can just pick their phone and record a video, it wasn't like that.
I agree. I agree. I mean, this is probably something that the legislature may want to consider, as you have said, by way of amendments. But until such amendments has been made, as far as the courts are concerned, what a court in a legal system like ours will tell you is that its duty is to interpret and apply the law as Parliament has passed it.
Right.
And currently, as it is, it requires
it doesn't make room for
writing.
that, so it doesn't hold.
Yes.
But how about the diary one?
So the question was if the will is written in a diary.
In the diary as well, yeah.
It's not being attested to by witnesses. It's just the diary of the person.
Yes.
And unfortunately, without the attestation, it becomes difficult for you to pass that off the will, because you see, it comes down to handwriting. There are people who are so skilled that they can copy another person's handwriting And so if you are not there, how do we know that this was the deceased who actually wrote this? I mean, I get that the response would be that it was his diary. But then the other person, the person I'm describing, who is an expert in copying other people's handwriting, can also get the same diary, copy the contents of the same diary, and there can be no difference. In fact, even in situations where the testator has appended a signature in the presence of witnesses, there are people who have questioned even the signature as being forged. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And so looking at a diary where you have only written in the diary without any attestation, it does not meet the criteria set in the law at all.
Okay. I'm forced to push. I mean, I'm tempted to push further. That what if the person writing in the diary did all the other things except having a lawyer to come and draft it for them? So they wrote it in a diary, and they had 2 witnesses. They had some names written down as executors and everything. What happens in that case?
I mean, that's would work, but there's a further step, and I think this is where the services of a professional will come in, because I understand that people would want to avoid costs. I do not want to pay a lawyer to prepare my will, so I'm doing it myself. Fine, that should work, but beyond preparing the will, there are certain steps that you must take. For instance, it must be deposited at the courts and then sealed.
Okay.
Good. So if you do not have a professional who is conversant with this procedure, you may prepare the will, but it will just be kept in your diary. It will not be in the records of the courts, because it must be sealed in the sense that once you send it to the courts, they put the seal on it and they keep it in a particular depository.
Right.
So that anytime it is changed, the additions or the amendments that we call a codicil would also be deposited there. And so I'm sure you would have come across situations where somebody will say, a copy of the will we have at home is not the same as what was read in court. At the end of the day, because we want to avoid these discrepancies, whenever a will has been made, it must be deposited there. And so if you lack the help of a professional who will guide you through this process, you would almost be at the finish line and not be able to cross it.
Right. Okay.
And
okay, you talk about
in addition
all right,
to
sure,
that,
go ahead, Daniel.
In addition to that, they recently our laws are trying to not Ghana alone, but going internationally. Anywhere we see the word writing, the law, the lawmakers try to now expand and give a definition for what is meant by writing. Previously, we were not doing that. When you say writing, we always know what writing is. And because of what you are saying about this modern development and all that, so now they go ahead to even give a definition for what is meant by writing, where they can say writing also includes maybe emailing or typing, among others. But as my colleague rightly said, the Rules Act has not been amended. So we can't expand an interpretation that will be given to certain acts, because some people may be thinking, but there are some definition given for writings in other law to include maybe videoing or emails. So until we expand or our lawmakers come to look at it and see these are new ways that law wills can be created, aside this the normal way of how we say writing should be, then the court would have to go about it in that way. But note, even if they are doing that, even if you are going to push for them to come in and admit diaries and videos to be in the form of to represent our will, they will still have to create certain parameters around it.
Right.
Otherwise, how do you determine that this video the person has made is actually the one we should take? Because someone can just stand up today and say and make a video and say maybe he's angry. He just make a video and say, I'm not going to give you my car. Then tomorrow he goes around and make another video on the same thing. So how then do we determine? And someone can come and pull about 3-4 videos on one property. So the lawmakers, even if they are going to go about it in that way, they have to even have certain barometers. Otherwise, we'll open the court too wide for flood of cases that would also help the intention of.
Hello, Daniel. Kwame, can you hear me?
The current position that we have.
Daniel, we lost you for a few minutes, a few seconds.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying, okay. And I'm saying even the current position that we have, we are not even getting up to even 40% of Ghanaians to create a will. So if you go to that tangent and add some of these things to it, it will create a lot of difficulty in the system. And then also, in respect of the instance where you can create the will without a lawyer, of course, you can always do that. But it is just a recommendation, as the rightly said. There is a process in it. Even if you can do the drafting on your own, if you can, some people will actually go and master the law. People are very good at that. And it's good that you know your law, because that is the work of NCCE and all that. So if you've read the law, if you've been educated on the law and you know the procedure, and you think you can go through and create everything, you just have to substantially make sure that the areas that requires professionals to come in, you have to also consider that. And one thing about law is that when a lawyer is actually drafting your will for you, he's not just looking at, people just think, oh, but it's just pen and paper or typing that is just doing. So why can't I do that? But the lawyer is not just taking that into consideration. The lawyer has actually been trained to bring into bear certain interpretations whilst he's drafting your law or your will. So he's looking at various laws, thinking every provision he's put in your will, he's thinking the consequence, short-term, long-term consequence for you. He's thinking about how, if a dispute arises around it, how the court will also go about it. Because there are certain terms or certain language that when you are drafting your will, as I said, your will projects your intentions. So when it goes to court and something happens in the future, the court will look at the words. That's a primary source of law that they will rely on to give intention to your will. They look at the words that you've used. So if you use the word, let's say children, I give this to my children, and it goes to court, and it's not a lawyer that drafted to guide you to know how this word children is, who is it limited to? Does it go beyond the children you give birth to with maybe 2-3 wives of yours? So the lawyer would come in and look at the various ways, look at various cases that have gone before the court when it has to do with wills, and then pick from some of these common mistakes. Because this word of children I've actually made mention of. We've had a case in court that has brought similar dispute, that the person used the word children, and it actually went to court, and the court gave a different interpretation as to who includes that children, because the original children think it was only them. But the court actually gave interpretation to expand it beyond the original children, the biological children. So, but if you have a lawyer in it, a lawyer will take into play some of these things that have happened in the past, take the law and make sure any word that is put in it actually capture the exact intention that you want, and not just about the putting it on paper and then all that. So it goes beyond just writing, and it includes some of these things to ensure that at least when you pass away, you can sleep thinking that your back has been properly arranged.
Right. Okay, let's take the final question, and then we can go, because I think we really have to do a part 2. Like I said, we have to do a part 2 with your permission, and I'll talk to the producer, and then we do that. But the final question, I mean, one of the questions that is here says that, but does it cost to make a will? And I think Edu said, you mentioned that maybe people are looking at the cost, and that's why they want to go into writing it into their diary and all of that. So does it cost to make a will in terms of paying the lawyer to draft their will for you? And is it expensive? Maybe that could discourage the low-income people. I mean, the low-income people from drafting one. So that's a message that came through, and the person didn't write their name. But Edu said, you may want to touch on that briefly. Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't say it is expensive, and even as I'm saying this, I know someone would say it is relative whether something is expensive or
Exactly.
not,
How much does it
depending
cost?
on.
Maybe more specifically, how much does it cost? Hello?
Hello, am I with you?
Yeah, yes. You're with me.
Okay. So, having said that,
I was also asking, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes, I was asking that more specifically, how much does it cost?
To be honest, I cannot give you a definite figure that this is how much it costs to do a will. But what I can assure you is that for lawyers, our profession is heavily regulated. And one of these regulations is that in the relationship between a lawyer and the client, because the lawyer is in, should I say, a higher bargaining position to the client, the regulator of the profession has set aside a scale of fees that is to guide lawyers in any work that we do. And so, for instance, if we are preparing a will, the value of the estates would influence the costs that will be the legal fee that will be charged. And so it will be difficult to say that it costs maybe 1 CD or 2 CDs. But what I can assure you is that whatever amount or fee that you are going to be charged will be measured according to the approved scale of fees by the Ghana Bar Association. That's all lawyers use as a yardstick in charging their clients. And whatever, I mean, this scale of fees is available online for everybody to have access to. And
Hello?
yes. Yeah. So if a lawyer is doing work for you that is not in tandem with the scale of fees, measures are available to report this and then have this redressed.
Yes. Okay, right. So you can't quote a particular figure. Are you able to do that, Daniel?
It is very difficult because, as I said, normally when the lawyer would even tell you that I'm going to charge 1,000 cedis, they would always evaluate the property that you want to create, and whether there are consequences around, especially where there are living landed properties involved. Because you may think that you want to create well, but the lawyer is not just looking at, okay, so you've told me you have a house. I have to go further to find out whether that house has any encumbrances on it. Encumbrances basically like any person who also have an interest in the land or any proprietary rights in the land. All those things comes into play.
Right.
And so it depends the type of properties you want to create the well on, and then the assessment that needs to be made on that to ensure that we know the exact value, the exact challenges, if any, before the lawyer would give you a cost. So, but I don't think it is that much of an expense, because mostly it shouldn't even cover up to even 30 to 50% or more, closer to 100% of your property. I don't think you create a lawyer will create a will for you, and the value would exceed the whole properties that you have. Maybe you have just one house that the house costs 100,000, and the lawyer will come and charge you 110,000 for creating the will for you on that property, unless what goes into the charges is not just the will, but there are other works that the lawyer did for you. Because when normally you come to take a lawyer, the lawyer gives you what is called terms of engagement, which is a letter. The letter will specify the scope of what he's going to do for you. So the scope will also tell you clearly the breakdown of the fees.
Okay.
And so when you get the breakdown of the fees, that, okay, I will go to registry because there's land involved. So we have to go to registry to check ABCD. He will tell you the cost for that. We have to go to maybe collateral registry to check ABCD for you. If there is something like that, he will tell you the cost for all those things. Now, when he gives you the cost for the breakdown, it is for you to let the lawyer know that this cost is high if you think you can't afford. That's how lawyers we work. We give you the breakdown per the scope, and then when we are done giving you, then you will come and tell us that it is high, or do you think, or you think you can there be any adjustments?
Right.
Certainly, the lawyers will look at it and then tell you where we can adjust or where we can do away with, and then we can get it adjusted for you to fit your budget. So normally when people go to a lawyer and then a lawyer mentions a quote, 10,000, or 5,000, or 2,000, they just say, hey, it's too huge. But I think the key thing we need to tell your listeners is that when you go and the lawyer mentions a quote, ask your lawyer, please, can you give me the scope of work? So that when he gives you the scope of, okay, this will cover this is what we'll be doing, and not all that. Then you appreciate, and then now come and ask the lawyer, okay, based on this, you think, can we do A, B, C, D to bring it down? Then you negotiate it. Then always, trust me, lawyers will always allow that to, because we are there to actually help you, the clients.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, I want to say a very big thank you to the two of you for your time and also for sharing these insights with us. Unfortunately, this is all time will allow us, but I'm really grateful to you.
I'm grateful too for your time, and we hope that the listeners will take keen notice of it, and ultimately, as we are preaching the development and progress in our country, people should take will seriously. You don't really need to have a lot of properties before you create a will. Let's help create a will so that we close the gap. So as much as possible, we don't pass away and allow laws that have been created by people to rather come and regulate how you want your property to be managed, but rather you have control over who has what when you even pass away. So let's do well, and then be confident enough that creating a will does not make you feel that you are going to pass away or you will die. You are not going to.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Let me also give you an opportunity to share your final words, Kwame.
Oh, I think Daniel has summed up everything. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you and listeners a very fruitful day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for joining me. Really, really grateful to the two of you. All right. Daniel Nkrumah is a practicing lawyer at, with AB and David Africa, and also Kwame Duse with the same organization. And these two gentlemen helped me break this down today. Well, my friends, that's how we wrap up today's discussion here on the Business Breakfast on Zed, our roundtable discussion, our main conversation for the day. We talked about the foundation of estate planning and why having a will isn't just for the wealthy, but it's for anyone who cares about protecting their family, their business, and their legacy. We've only scratched the surface today, but don't worry, hopefully and most likely we'll have a conversation again next week, and we'll dive deeper into the practical steps, the real life examples, and the strategies to safeguard your legacy and avoid some costly mistakes. So please mark your calendars and join us again for part 2, hopefully next week. But until then, take a moment to think about your legacy, because the best time to plan is now.